Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
What's up, everybody? Ugh, let's start that one again. We're really figuring it out today. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health podcast. I can't tell you yet what we're going to talk about because we haven't decided.
Oh, yeah, we have. Come on, we talked about it yesterday and last week, and then we also kind of had like some...
And then we do that quite a lot, and then they end up just on a tangent.
Yeah, that's the best way of doing it. It's natural. It means natural discussion.
Actually got a message. I got a message from Louise yesterday saying that she feels like they're getting better every week.
Hey,
so, I mean, that's
thanks, Louise. Appreciate that. Yeah. She's mostly talking about me, of course, but I mean, it's just yeah.
Because you were the one that needed to get better, whereas I didn't.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So what's up? How's it going?
Good, man. Things are great. It's been a good training week. I've been having some substantial gains on the weight side of the house. I went up by 7,000 pounds on my back somehow from last week on volume, which is so stupid ridiculous. I don't know what I did, but something happened. So, but no, things have been really good. How about you?
I can't comprehend how that actually happens. Things are good for me. I'm just back literally in through the door. As I've spoke about a couple of times, my buddy Helmy is putting together his own gym and the equipment arrived today. So I'm going to have a new dungeon to train in. Scott, if you're listening, yes, this is me next week, another week, getting a new gym to train in. I'll tell you about it later on. But I'm actually really looking forward to training there because I literally went, I think I said this to you on Monday night, I went to the gym late at like about 7:30 and I walked in, looked around me, went downstairs, looked around me and walked back out again. I was like, fuck this, not today. So it'll be good having my own space that there'll be nobody else there and I can train whenever I want. But yeah, apart from that, everything's good. Training's going really well. I think because I have my food prepped and I have it and I'm actually eating it, training is like, I'm just progressing. My personal weight is going up. I'm getting stronger. I feel better. Everything's good. Everything's really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's I finally started dropping some weight this week, which I think is a good thing. I didn't really care because I was, thinning out a bit.
I think we're meeting in the middle.
We are.
You're going down and I'm going up.
I was at, 227 yesterday? You're 227?
I was 227.
Yeah, so we weigh the same now.
So that means when we can have, we weigh the same. So when we're lifting, it's pound for pound the same. So there is no advantage.
That's right.
We're both literally lifting the same. That's good.
It is. And so, yeah, no, it's been good. What I like is, Orange Theory is kind of like a set class and I book it out like a month and a half. So even when you get like the folks that are like doing like the New Year's resolutions and kind of spin off, it doesn't really impact me. And then obviously I have my own gym, fortunately. So I don't have to deal with the madness that goes along there. But I remember when I was on vacation in North Carolina at Hilton Head, there was, went to the Planet Fitness there. And it was really frustrating to lift there because one, all the Smith machines, all of the bench machines were all taken. So you basically have to like wait in line and you can't do like 2 exercises at a time. So you basically have to like focus on that one movement and you have to wait in line to go and do it. But then they don't have enough plates for you to even, go heavy on things. So you have to do, it was just a total shit show. And so I'm glad I am able to, have a place that I can call home for the gym and just, put the work in and everything else that goes along with it. And I'll tell you, yesterday, it's a funny story. I went downstairs and I'm like, I just don't feel like lifting. And then I just like went into like some crazy lifting mode and I just started lifting insane amounts of weights. And then I was like, oh, I really feel like lifting right now. And I did rack pulls for 395 pounds with 10 reps, which I thought was really good. I did 405 pounds at 7. So that's really awesome. And my back, I'll tell you, my back is feeling amazing, which is a great thing for me, right? Which means that my back has gotten substantially stronger because I can obviously hold that weight, but 2, I'm doing the movements properly because I don't come out of that with, the sore lower back that I traditionally had before, the tightness around there. Yeah, I feel it. And yeah, I can tell my muscles are fatigued in the back, but I don't have any type of pain whatsoever anymore. So it's really pushed me through a lot of my injuries that I have, and it's been feeling really good going through it.
Yeah, I think a lot of, like, especially with rack pulls and things like that, like a lot of posterior chain work really begins to pay off. And, you know, a lot of people are weak at some point through the posterior chain, whether it's hamstrings, glutes, lower back, or whatever it is. And if you actually spend the time to strengthen each and every one of those individually, then you don't get that same level of soreness no matter what, whether it's a hip hinge movement or at the bottom of your squat or even like bent over rows and things like that. So you imagine that whenever you're in those positions that your lower back's holding the weight the entire time. So it needs to be strong. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, you know, I've recommended back extensions or hip extensions to a lot of you guys. And since I've started doing them myself, like I've really noticed the improvements myself in terms of the strength and stability that I can create and not have any issues. I'm back up to 440 pounds on my RDL without an issue at all.
That's awesome. 440 on RDL, man. Oof, that's a lot. It's a lot of weight. That's great. I did 441 the other day too, so it was
good. How many reps?
700. I'll tell you another story this morning. You know, there's a new trainer at Orange Theory, and you know, whenever you get a new trainer, like they're kind of like understanding who's there, who comes regularly, those types of things. And whenever there's a new trainer too, like you don't really like the person at first because like they're fumbling around and they don't know exactly what they're doing. But eventually you grow attached to that individual, and they're awesome, and this person's awesome. But you know, again, first time, and he doesn't know anybody, and he's one of those guys that is like correcting every single person on form, and you're like, dude, like I've been coming here for like I've been coming here for like 2 years, and I understand that I'm cutting my row a little bit short, but it's because I just ran 12 mile an hour sprints at a 5% incline. I'm like, I'm literally dying here. Like, you know, you might need to call the emergency bus to come get me. So he's having me going all the way back. I'm like, all right, I'll entertain this. So I'm going. And then I get to the gym part, which is, you know, weights. And they do this thing, it's called a cluster. So you basically do 5 reps relatively slow. Then you bang out as many reps as you can twice. Okay, so you basically, you know, as many as you can do with that same weight, just bang it out. And so, you know, one of them was a chest press. And so they have what Orange Theory is allowed to have is up to 50 pounds. But then they have like these higher weights that are like 60, 70, and 80 that they hide whenever they get inspected or whatever, so that they can get these extra weights in or whatever for folks like myself, obviously. And so, you know, I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go a little light today. I'm just going to go with the 50 pounds because I just did, you know, push and pull Monday and Tuesday. I'm like, I don't need to wreck myself with super heavy weights, especially if I'm doing like really high rep intensity stuff. So I go and I get the 50-pound weights and I put them down. And I do the 5, and he doesn't pay attention. But I get to the where I'm banging out the whole reps. He's like, whoa. He's like, you don't need to go that heavy, man. You're like, you know, we're trying to get around the 7 to 10 mark. You don't want to be like, you know, bombing out at 3. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, it's 50 pounds. Like, I can do this. So I go up and I start doing it. And he's like, you know, and I get to like 10. He's like, oh shit. And I keep going. I'm like 15. And he's like, oh shit, if you get to 20, he's like, there's no way. And I got to 20, and everybody in like the whole gym is like, whoa, you know, and he's like, okay, I definitely mistaked you for somebody different. So he went over and got 70-pound dumbbells, and I was lifting with those afterwards. I didn't want to, but at that point I'm like getting called out. So I was like, okay, I got to go and do it. So
so now he knows.
Yeah. Now everybody knows that I can lift 70-pound dumbbells. And anyways, it was, and I wasn't even competing with anybody. I was just chilling today. You know, competing myself. I was just in my own mind. You know, everything was good until I got called out by this new instructor. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. You know.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was moving some of the dumbbells in Helmy's gym, and Helmy's a big boy. And we were moving some of them out of the way. And I'm looking down at these fucking dumbbells. And I was like, I don't know if I can lift these. Fuck the size of these. And one of them, well, a pair of them was 75 kilos.
Oh my gosh, 150
so that's like 165 pounds. 165 pounds. I'm like, what the fuck do you do with this? Like, that's something you like hold the door open.
Oh my gosh!
I shoulder press. And I was like,
shoulder press, 150 pounds each one. Oh my god! Big. He's a big boy. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting place for me to train. I'll be like, have you got any weights that I can actually use? Like, but no, it's going to be good fun. It's going to be good fun.
That's awesome.
Okay, so on to today. Well, I'll leave it over to you. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think, you know, it's the new year, right? So with New Year's comes New Year's resolutions. Now, first, I want to say that I'll tell you the activity on We Hack Health as of late has been exploding like crazy. People really making changes. People that had success in 2021 are looking at carrying it over into 2022. So first of all, for the folks that took the plunge in 2021, congratulations. Like, you are making a change. And, I was explaining to somebody just today, and it actually relates into life as well. I was on a podcast yesterday with Davin talking about, kind of like where I came from, my career, and how I do what I do and those types of things. And this relates 100% in your life, business, your family, and in lifting, is that you want to have more good days than bad, right? That's your goal, right? Your goal is to have better days than not better days, with fitness, with work, with health, with family. And here's the thing: if you're having more worse days than better days, then you have to make a change to have more better days than worse days. If that's in your job, if you just hate your job every single day, and every single day you go to your work and you're miserable, by the way, that's going to impact your family. That's going to impact your health. That's going to impact every aspect of your life, because your miserable at work carries over 100%. I know if I get pissed off at work, I'm pissed off when I go home, right? I try to let it go, but I'm not my happy, chipper self where I'm goofing around with the kids. I'm like, I just don't want to deal with this shit today, So, fitness is very much the same thing. You want to have more better days than you have worse days. And if you're having more worse days than better, then you have to make some sort of change to actually commit. So for those that committed in 2021 that had more better days than not, congratulations. For those that struggled and that still continue to struggle, hang in there and have more better days than not. Continue to push yourself in that direction where you're having more successes and more wins than you are losses with this journey and battle with the weight loss or weight gain or whatever your objectives are in all of this. So for the folks that are just coming in 2022, listen, this is a fresh new start, right? We look at a new year as a new us when it really isn't. It's just another day, another week, another month in our cycle. But, mentally, we can use this as a little small change to say, hey, we're going to make a difference this time that's going to be successful. And what's interesting is if you look at the search criteria going into 2021 and early into 2022, everybody is Googling what's the best diet of 2022. Everybody's Googling, how do I get myself into shape? How do I make a New Year's resolution stick? These are all things that happen every single year for a lot of us. I was in that same boat, by the way. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just eat bark and dirt from the ground until I get to my desired weight, right? And obviously it's not going to be successful, okay? So, this podcast is really dedicated to all those folks that made those New Year's resolutions, but really want to make it a success. And we're going to go over the top, searches through Google and what people are doing and kind of break them down of either why they're good or why they're bad, or why there's issues with them or why there's not. And so, obviously we're going to get into diets, and you should, if you've listened to these podcasts before, we are adamantly against diets in every single way, shape, or form. And I'll just go on and say, fuck diets. They're the worst thing for you. So if you're looking to get insight into keto or to paleo or to, the tree and bark, diets, this isn't your podcast. We're going to tell you how to actually lose weight for a long period of time. And, hopefully, and absolutely keep that off long-term as we go.
I think it's funny. Number one, yes, fuck that. And actually, I'm surprised it's taken us, this is episode 22, this long to get into this conversation. Yeah. But what's funny is I had a call with Daniel earlier on, and he said one of the things that surprised him the most and that he's struggling with the most is actually eating enough food. And he says it's not something that he ever thought would be an issue on a weight loss or a fat loss journey. Because obviously, any sort of diet or anything that we've been told or read on the internet, it's like eat less food, do more cardio and whatever it is, which, I mean, obviously those things don't work. They work to an extent, but they don't take you the whole way. And sort of getting your head around the fact that I'm trying to tell him to eat more food, it's like, this doesn't really make sense, and he's actually struggling to eat the food. But then obviously whenever I explain it, like, he gets it, and we look at the longevity of it and the increased intensity of workouts and everything that comes along with that. But it was a funny sort of conversation, because he was like, this is not what I expected to be struggling with in this journey. Yeah. And I think that's one of the best things for me, and you've been there yourself, in terms of like all the food.
Dude,
like,
I got tired of eating. That's the first time in my life I've ever got, and it's different because I probably was eating, at given points, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 calories, but just eating total shit. But when you're actually eating like legit food, 3,800 calories, 3,900 calories, 4,000 calories is a lot of food. And I was like, shit, I got 1,000 more calories I got to eat in 20 minutes. What? I'm going to start pounding Pop-Tarts or something to try to figure this out, because I can't do it.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I think one thing that I've noticed as well from having my meals prep with me, and the big advantage of having lots of veg, number one, from a fill your plate, like keep you full. Like I always feel full at the minute. Like I don't ever be like, oh, I'm hungry or whatever. And I think it's because I have so much veg, and obviously, the benefits that come along with that. And I always would have thought that I had enough, but whenever you actually like go over and above in terms of the amount that you eat, like you really do feel the benefits. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me for getting those prepped for me too.
It's weird. When you eat calorie dense foods that aren't whole foods, like like a Pop-Tart, for example, or chips, like my crux is.
Or an Anabar, if you want to talk about it.
Anabar is whole foods, okay? It's predominantly peanut butter based. It's not a bunch of shit, and it tastes good. Though that's filling. Now, yeah, I could polish off like 6 Anabars, but it's like 100 grams of protein, right? No, listen, my biggest crux is Wheat Thins, right? And here's the thing, like I can eat a whole box of Wheat Thins right now and still not feel full, right? Because it's one of those things where you're not eating the right types of foods. Like a good example is eating oatmeal, very filling. For me, right? Eating, I love rice and chicken. Like rice and chicken, I know we talked about this before, but like I literally could just eat rice and chicken all day long. Like I know that's like
I'm the same. I know it gets a bad rap because it was like bodybuilder diet, and a lot of old school PTs would just put you on 6 meals of chicken, broccoli, and rice per day,
so
which
good.
Would be shit because I couldn't eat it 6 times a day.
I can eat it 6 times a day.
I do actually really enjoy. But I do actually genuinely enjoy it, and some of my meals that I get that my mum preps, chicken, broccoli, and rice, I'm like, fucking right. If it's seasoned right, the flavor's right,
some soy sauce, like soy sauce is the most incredible thing ever.
I think, and I've said this before, it's not the food's not the issue, it's people's inability to cook is the issue, because one person could make chicken, broccoli, and rice, and someone else could make it, and they'd be 2 entirely different meals.
100% agree, and that's where the whole Tavala thing for us in the United States has helped out a lot. I get most of the meals that I select are predominantly rice based with some sort of either pork or chicken or steak, something like that, where I'm combining carbohydrates, and I'll have potatoes, and other things out there. So the prepackaged meals that are never frozen, that I just stick into this oven that they sent you, and I scan a QR code and I walk away. I come back 20 minutes later and it's like magically food, and it's all very good whole foods, good portion sizes, and I'm sitting around anywhere between 300 calories if it's just like chicken and broccoli. Or I'm sitting, and that's great for lighter meals, if I've already expunged a lot of calories earlier on for, during the day. Or, heavier meals where I'm having steak and, mashed potatoes and things like that, which is more around the 700 calorie mark, but it has 50 grams of protein and, 40 grams of carbs and 10 grams of fat. So, the prepackaged meals are great. The cooking aspect is the difficult part, right, for nutrition, is getting the right types of meals, And so if you can use one of those services that make it super simple. If you can do rice and chicken, they make these like steamers for rice that you can keep all your servings of rice in for the day, and you just scoop it out throughout the rest of the day, and then just reheat the chicken that you've cooked the prior week, and just package your stuff up. I mean, it's a great stuff right there that make it super simple for you to eat. And I just literally, if I could do rice with soy sauce, some broccoli with some Lorry sauce or Lorry salt, and then some chicken with some sriracha, I'd be a happy camper for the rest of my life. Like that's a diet I could stick to, I think, for the rest of my life. I don't think I'd ever get sick of that. I just love rice and chicken. I don't know. Broccoli's good too. So,
genuinely, if it's cooked properly, then I'm fully on board with it. And I think it does get a bad rap for that reason. And one thing I will say is, if you can prep your meals or have your meals prepped for you, it's the best thing for any sort of nutrition plan, because me knowing that I have them in the fridge and I can just go and heat them up, I throw them in the wok, like it's an absolute game changer. And I do sort of feel like I'm cheating a bit because somebody else cooks them, but whatever, like I just throw it in the wok and I have them, and it means that I'm actually eating the food and I'm not like, oh fuck, I don't want to really go and cook and whatever. But if you can find an hour twice a week to prep your meals for 3 days in advance, and they're sitting there, it's so easy to have them and just eat them, and it means you're ticking the box. And it doesn't mean that, like, I never get hungry where I'm like scrambling and being like, oh, I just want to eat a fucking bag of Doritos because I'm starving. It's everything's there, it's weighed out for me. And it's actually quite funny that I changed slightly the amount of the carb source in each one, because obviously I want to get leaner. So and I noticed it, like I took 10 grams of rice away per meal, and 100 grams of potatoes, and fuck, I definitely noticed it in the meals. I'm like half full. I'm like, what the fuck?
Your body knows, man. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I want to hit on a point that you had said before on someone that you were chatting about the calories and eating more, right? A lot of times the issue is the types of food that we're eating and not eating enough of the types of food that we should be eating. And I just did a retweet from MyFitnessPal just a few minutes ago. There was a lady, Molly, that had tried every single extreme diet possible. She was obese. She was 26 years old in Dublin, Ireland. And she goes through her history around, how she got to 238 pounds at 21 years old, and then just continued to skyrocket. And what she noticed is that as soon as she started tracking calories, and she actually ate more food than she traditionally did, and actually ate more calories and lost 84 pounds by doing it the appropriate way, which is tracking your calories, incorporating some sort of resistance training into there and a little bit of cardio mixed into that. And, she was able to lose 84 pounds and be consistent with it. And she's been able to keep it off for several years. Whereas, the diets that you typically go to, you bounce up, you bounce down, you bounce in sideways, and you go straight back up again. You get even heavier than you ever possibly could have. So, it's a lot of times it's what you're eating versus, how much of it you're eating. And I think that's an important piece here on these diets is that, these diets work if that's your lifestyle, right? Like, if you're diabetic, having a lifestyle of keto is fantastic, for you health-wise, but I tried keto and I'm not diabetic and I fucking hated it. And by the way, I love meat and cheese. I love it. It's like my favorite food ever. I feel like I can eat all the meat, all the cheese in the world. And when I was on keto, I hated meat and cheese. I hated it because you don't have the normal variety of foods that you typically have. And all you're eating all day is fat and protein. And, having a flexible diet that allows you to use carbohydrates for energy, having some fats, I'll tell you, I don't eat as much cheese as I used to anymore. I don't eat much cheese at all because of the fat content in it. And that's fine. I don't actually crave cheese as much as I used to. I'll have it here and there, like on a burger or something like that, but I just don't eat raw cheese anymore. But the flexibility in my diet is I can eat whatever I want to, just within moderation and planning it out. That's the biggest difference. I think I showed a picture. I went to Buffalo Wild Wings and I got their brisket burger, which was like 950 calories. I'm like, man, this cutting phase is really, really fucking difficult right now. Let me tell you, I don't know if I can handle this. I had fries on the side and some broccoli, and I was like, hey, I'm owning this. I still had my protein goals, hit all my goals for the day. Didn't go over it. I just, skinnied down on the carbohydrates later on. Just went more protein centric that's the flexibility you have. You can eat whatever you want to, just can't eat all that you want to.
Yeah, I think the best, or what I often see whenever people come, they're like, oh, I'm eating more food than I ever have. Yes and no. It's as you said previously that, there potentially beforehand you maybe were eating 5,000 or 600 or 6,000 calories, but you were eating it from high calorie, low volume food. So the food was high calorie, so you weren't actually physically eating as much food. Whereas nutrient dense, whole, single source foods are lower in calories and higher in volume. So you get more food for your calorie budget per se. And I think the thing about any sort of diet is that it's like you said, you are restricted. And whenever, naturally as humans, whenever we're told that we can't do something or can't have something, it's all we fucking think about. So whenever they take carbs out of a keto diet, that's all that you're going to think about. Do you know what I mean? And if, like, yes, okay, meat and cheese is great, and bacon and fucking peanut butter and whatever else, but if that's all you can eat, then that's going to be where the struggle is. Are we going to get into that? It's like I have a keto thing open in front of me here if you want to talk about it.
Let's do it.
I can't talk from experience, which is going to be unique because you can obviously talk from experience in doing it. But I understand the diet, and I will caveat this by saying, although I slate diets and although I slate keto quite a lot, there are a lot of good points and bad points in the majority of diets. So I will try and be fair as possible in this without just totally slating diets, I think. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I've tried every diet in the book, so I can go into great detail of what worked, what didn't. And here's the thing, like, if you're looking to lose quick weight, which is the wrong way of looking at this, right? But if you're looking at losing quick weight, these diets can work to accelerate that. But you have to have something to come off to, a structure that's going to allow you to be successful to either maintain or to continue to lose weight gradually over time, because you're not going to be able to do keto for 10 years. You're not going to be able. I mean, some people have been able to, but it's a very small percentage. You're talking probably less than 1% of people that try keto can stick with it for a long period of time. And I'm just making that number up, but it's got to be extremely low. So it's it's one of those things where if you're gonna go into this, you need to already have been successful with managing your food, your macros, your calories, and everything else. And then, if you want to try something to tweak it, like right now I'm using feeding windows, right? I don't eat anything after 8 o'clock, and I don't eat until at least 10 o'clock in the morning. So 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I do that not because I'm trying to lose weight, but because it's good from my circadian clock perspective and causing my body to clean up itself from a nutrients perspective and an efficiency perspective. I just feel better with those. There's a lot of great science behind that. So, there are points to a lot of these that I think make a lot of sense. It's just a matter of plugging it in where it makes sense, where you've already had success, and making tweaks as you go along. But if we start getting into some of the top 10 searches out there, my favorite, which I love, by the way, was the number 2 most searched thing in Google around fitness. Can anybody guess what it is? Now, so we're gonna take a quick pause and think about what the number 2 top thing would be in your mind of what you would think. Okay, we should have like a
elevator music, or just stop the podcast here. Leave it, and then wait another week.
So number 2 was how do I cancel my Planet Fitness membership, which I thought was absolutely freaking hysterical.
Actually, so I put the numbers up there. Global monthly search for that is 4,400 people. So 4,400 people search how to cancel my Planet Fitness membership per month. That's
crazy. Obviously, they are very large.
Number 3, how to become a fitness model. Interesting.
So I'm actually in there, by the way. So I'm one of those.
That's it. So 3,600 searches per month in Europe, probably about 3,595 of them.
I keep searching over and over, expecting different results. So, yeah. So I mean, obviously these are going to be different based on people's goals and everything else out there, but. It's actually interesting to see this, but I think the number 1 most searched, which was 14,800 global monthly searches, was what is physical fitness? And I think that's an important topic to bring up, right?
I think this is subjective, so it's person dependent.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the person and what they believe. So I'll put it to you to see what your view on it is.
Well, I think it's when you talk about what is physical fitness, to me, it's what do you want to accomplish for yourself? It's your own objective. Do you want to shed 50 pounds? Do you want to grow muscle and look like a bodybuilder? Do you want to be able to run a 5K? What is your definition of physical fitness? Typically, for me, it would be being healthier. For longevity of life, it would be, continue to grow as much muscle as I possibly can. It will be, continue to push myself to new limits that I never thought I could do before. And to me, it would be staying consistent every single day and not faltering, to get to those desired results that I want. That's my idea of physical fitness. Now, again, that's mine. That's not yours. Everybody is different. You should never compare yourself to anybody else. You are yourself. Your wins are your wins. You should never compare yourself to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's a mixture of genetics, steroids, and an ass ton of lifting, right? Or an NBA player, or we all are all different in how we're built, our genetics, where we start in life, where we don't start in life, if we've done it before, if we've not. Again, our definition, I think, should be very specific off of us and uniquely.
Yeah, the way that I would look at it is not being restricted in doing anything is probably the most broad term that I can give. So being able to be functional, being able to be strong, being able to be cardiovascularly fit, like to not be restricted in terms of the things that you do day to day, whatever it is in work, training, whatever it is. And I think that that's the way that I would describe it. I did do the search, so I'm now part of the 14,000 people, whatever. Physical fitness is a state of health and well-being, and more specifically, the ability to perform aspects of sports, occupations, and daily activities. So, I mean, that sort of fits, I guess, what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yep. And those are all important things to take into consideration for your own objectives, your own goals, right? I don't think we need to get into how to become a fitness model, which is 3,600. Folks.
I have no idea. I wouldn't know. Number 17, does Planet Fitness have free weights? Planet Fitness is getting a bad rap here. Does Planet Fitness have... How many of them are with Planet Fitness?
Does Planet Fitness have free weights? What does that even mean? I mean, does that mean like you could like take the weights home, or like...
No, free weights, like
free weights,
like dumbbells or things that are.
Sorry, I took it. You're right. I took it as free weights, like
literal. You get a free weight with your $10 membership.
Yeah, that's hilarious. What is Orange Theory Fitness came in number 13, which I thought was really good. Is Planet Fitness open today? There's a lot of Planet Fitness ones out there, so that's obviously a dominating force. One of the ones I thought was legitimate, and I think this is a discussion that, we don't really have a lot of discussion around, which is, what is cardiovascular fitness? And, that's something that we've hit on a lot on this podcast, but, people automatically assume cardiovascular fitness equates to weight loss, muscle building, and all those desired results. And if you look at, let's just take a diet, for example, paleo. Okay, so paleo diets, are predominantly going to be, lean meats like, fish, chicken, those types of things, fruits and veggies, nuts and seeds, basically anything that would come from hunting and gathering that would be similar to how we were raised, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, from an evolutionary perspective. So what they're trying to simulate is, we evolved from, these types of habits where we had to forage for our food and go for our food and all those different things. And so what does that mean from a diet perspective? Now, what they don't tell you in the paleo diet is, that's a great way of eating. Lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. Those are great things for you from an eating perspective, but you can still overeat, eat too much of that, and still gain weight. And so, again, without restriction or context, that's one thing. Now, you talk about cardio. Cardio is very much the same thing. Everybody says, well, you need to do cardio in order to lose weight. Well, that's bullshit. What's happening with cardio? Don't get me wrong. There's benefits of cardio, especially cardiovascular wise. But cardio does not mean you lose weight. If you go and you run, you go to Orange Theory, or you do a circuit training, a HIIT training, or you do, an hour of running on a treadmill or walking on a treadmill, what that does is you're burning calories. Okay. And that's what we want. We want to burn calories, which equates to putting us more into a calorie deficit. But if we're not controlling what we eat from a nutritional perspective, what Ben said earlier, when he cut out some of his carbohydrates, he noticed, in his mind and his stomach that, hey, I didn't eat as much carbohydrates as I normally eat. I didn't eat as much rice or potatoes that I normally eat. I'm still kind of hungry. Well, our minds do the same thing. So if we do cardio, let's just say we burn 600 calories and we're used to eating 3,000 calories, our body's going to say, okay, well, I need to eat 3,600 calories. And so you're going to sit there and you're going to do cardio, and then you're going to eat more to make up for the calorie loss that your body's telling you that you need. And then you're going to stay the same weight or gain weight as you go along. So really, this is...
I think this is one of the funniest things about MyFitnessPal. Like, if you connect your fitness tracker to it and you go out for a run and you do cardio, it almost gives you back the calories.
Yeah.
Like, so you can switch it off, but it's like, okay, I burned 600 calories, so it gives you plus 600 calories. So say, for example, like you said, your goal is 3,000 calories. You go out for your run, it gives you plus 600 calories. So you're like, all right, now I get the 3,600 calories. So even that function in MyFitnessPal creates a bit of a shit show in terms of like, okay, well, I've got them back now. Obviously, people mention this to me all the time, like, oh, well, then can I eat the calories? I'm like, no, that's what creates the deficit. That's what takes you down from eating 3,000 to, being a sort of 2,400 maintenance level or whatever it is. But it's like MyFitnessPal is actually giving you them back, as in, oh, good job, here you go, have your calories back.
It makes no sense. We need to, if our goal is to lose weight, We need to be in a calorie deficit, plain and simple. That is as basic as it absolutely gets. Caloric deficit equates to weight loss. So if your total daily energy expenditure, which is the amount of energy you expend on a daily basis, is 2,500 calories, and you're eating 2,500 calories, you will never lose weight. If your total daily energy expenditure is 2,500 calories and you're eating 2,200 calories, you're going to lose weight. It's just the math behind it. Now, there are some nuances and things like that with thermogenics and certain types of foods that digest differently and fiber and stuff like that. But for lack of a better term, 2,500 calories, 300 calorie deficit, 400 calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. Expect to lose weight. And think about it. That's 300 calories a day stacked up to a week, right? So 300 times 7, equates to X amount of pounds, a pound or two per week that you would lose, specifically as things go along. So again, it's tracking your food, tracking what you eat, understanding what you're eating, doing it within moderation, and then from there, incorporating other things on top of it.
I agree. There's one here actually I want to touch on in terms of.
I know what it is. Does Planet Fitness have showers?
No, that was
number 10. That was number 10. Does Planet Fitness have Wi-Fi? It was number 8.
No, number 63. How fitness changed your life. So I want to put that one to you. I mean, I'll answer after, but
yeah.
Number 64 is actually how fitness models make money. So you might want to answer that one, but we'll go with how fitness changed your life.
I was actually talking to Davin about this on his podcast yesterday, and
I believe you're recording podcasts for other people. I think we'll talk about this.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to be regular on it. It's like every week now, and I'm like a co-host and everything. Oh, okay. And it's like all we're doing is talking about fitness. Okay. And
do they not know that we come together? Like, why have I not been invited?
Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous. No, it was about cybersecurity, and we talked about the fitness thing as a sidebar. But one thing that was interesting about what I talked about and the benefits of my physical fitness journey was that we talk about the aesthetics of things, right? Being able to take your shirt off and not feel self-conscious about it, being able to know that you're making progress and chipping away at years and years and years of neglect of your own body. What I didn't expect was the byproduct of living a healthy lifestyle, which is energy, motivation, confidence, strength, all of these things that just started hitting, but also my brain activity, my clarity, my ability to focus and get things accomplished. A good, solid, physical fit body equates to your whole body, including your mind. And so it literally changed every aspect around how I do business, how I interact with my family, being involved in my family. Like I mentioned this before, but coaching my kids and being involved in their sports and, kicking their butts all the time by dunking over them. Dad, you can't dunk anymore. I'm like, I'm still going to dunk over you. Dads play dirty. And so, all of these things that have really transpired because of my want for the aesthetics, because I've always been self-conscious of my weight, or, when I go into a place or location, I'd be like, I'm too fat. I'll just keep my shirt on when I go into the pool. Those types of things that I don't have to worry about anymore, but have just had equal effect on how I feel. And I mentioned this before. I did a conference called GERCON in Michigan, and I presented thousands of times. I'm so comfortable presenting. Presenting is my element, right? I can go up on stage in front of 10,000 people and not blink an eye. I have no problems with that whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, I still get nervous, but when I went up on stage this time after my journey, no one had seen me. I felt so good about myself. I felt so confident in what I was presenting as well as who I was, that it was probably one of the best presentations I've given in a very long time, if ever, because of how I felt about my body. So my physical fitness journey has not only fixed, my confidence issues around myself and how I appear or look, but it has also made me feel completely better as an individual human being, better than I ever have in my entire life. What about you?
I mean, for me, getting into training and getting in the gym, I would say probably saved my life. Like I was I've realized this, and I'm a bit older, I have an addictive personality. And I think knowing that and making sure that I'm addicted to the right things is the only thing that's going to keep me in line. Before I started training, I've said this a million times, like I was, I want to say fortunate enough, but maybe now that I look back, I was unfortunate enough. I was able to create a business that allowed me to go out and party and drink and take drugs a lot, which was fine at the time. And I'm going to say I don't regret it because it taught me a lot of life lessons up until this point. But if I hadn't of started in the gym and stepped away from that life, I have absolutely no idea what state, place, shape I would be in now. So being able to find something else that I could become addicted to or use as an escape is definitely it literally, it did not change my life. It saved my life, because I was on a very bad path to a very dark place. And then obviously the thing about it for me was I obviously then made a career out of it, because I thought, well, if me being a total fucking pisshead can turn my life around, then I can give people the tools and the guidance that they can do this for themselves. And I hear this regularly, that, you know, what we've been able to do together has changed their life. And that for me is beyond whatever I could have imagined that this would lead to. Whenever I first walked into the gym, skinny as hell, with I look back at it now and it's so funny, because I had a really oversized wife beater vest that would come all the way down here, my skinny arms. I would never dream of wearing that now. I'm like, the fuck did I think I was with this fucking vest on? I imagine if I had that vest now and put it on, it still wouldn't fit me. It would still be too big. So I don't know who the fuck I thought I was, but I actually see if I can find some photos of me originally in the gym. But yeah, it definitely has done a lot for me in that aspect.
Well, I think you bring up a good point of, you know, the ability to share your experiences with others, to help others. I think that's probably one of the most rewarding things. I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, is, you know, to share our experiences with others and help others out with their journeys, because we all struggle with this, right? And it's something that, you know, if we've had success, how can we get these Google searches to translate to something that's actionable and real, that is not a fantasy? You know, what those search engines are there for clickbait. You Google what's the best way to lose weight, and then your first thing that's come up is going to be paleo diets and keto diets, and, you know, this supplement for fat loss burning and this and that. And, you know, it's all bullshit. You know, without understanding our bodies, there's no way that we're going to be able to be successful in this journey. Number 76 was, which fitness equipment is best for weight loss? What why is that even on the list? I mean, every fitness equipment is great for weight loss if you have a good structured meal program. You know what your calories are, and you get a good exercise in, you know, to take care of it. So, you know, it's one of those things where if we don't have a good understanding of our bodies, if we don't have a good understanding of what we're doing from a mindset perspective, what we're doing from the pillars there around nutrition and, you know, everything else that we talk about, we're not going to be successful with what we do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, you know, to me, whenever I'm speaking to people on calls, they're like, oh, what equipment do I need, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you're starting from zero and you only have your body weight, we'll start with that. Or if you have, I've said this before, whatever you have, it doesn't matter. We can work around it. It doesn't need to be a massive investment. It just needs to be something that you do on a regular basis and can improve on. And I think that, you know, people often get put off as oh, well, I don't have equipment, or I don't have access to the gym, or I don't, whatever, insert every other excuse under the sun. But when in actual fact, it's as you said, you know, what they don't have is an understanding to what they actually need to do and what that looks like. I think one of the things that I want to touch on, I tweeted about this after having a conversation last week. I hear this a lot, and I actually probably heard it from you as well, in one of our initial calls. People often always tell me what they used to be able to do, and there's always such a level of frustration in that, because they feel like they should still be able to do those things. So used to play sports in college, used to be super fit, used to be a fucking fitness model, used to be in the military, whatever it was, and that's whenever they were fit. You have said this about the military. Chris has said this about whenever he was younger, he used to play sports and whatever else. And I think being able to detach from that is probably the biggest thing that you need to do as an individual, because if it was 10 years ago, if it was 20 years ago, your life is not the same. The circumstances are the same. Your priorities aren't the same. Work's taken over. Family life's taken over. You know, your body's entirely different now. You can't get away with, all right, I need to shed a couple of pounds. I'm just going to go for a run here. I wouldn't recommend just going for a run if you're, you know, 100, 150 pounds overweight. There's stages that you need to go through. You can't just go back to 20-year-old self and be like, I'm just going to go and do some fucking pull-ups here, and I'm just going to cut back on this. It doesn't work. So you need to reestablish yourself as the person that you are now and decide the person that you want to become, which then leads us back into the sort of habit conversation that we had last week, and doing those things that will allow you to become that person.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is, you know, when they go into something like this, they go all in. And, you know, you look at that and you say, okay, well, I'm going to destroy myself 7 days a week. Your body is not at a point to where it can handle that, right? You know, so, you know, and if
even if I had said that to you, sorry,
no, you're
but if I had said to you the plan that you're doing now, 6 days a week, 3 Orange Theory sessions and 15 or 14,000 steps, if I'd have said that to you
quit.
The first day that we spoke, you wouldn't, there's no way you wouldn't be able to do it.
I wouldn't be able to handle it. There's no way, you know, and even if it wasn't in, you know, obviously not in the same intensity or strength or anything else, I would still quit because, you know, it's just too much for you getting into this to re-gear your mind and everything else that's going on, your shape, everything else, your cardiovascular shape, your muscle strength. You know, I never consistently did muscle training or resistance training my entire life. I did some in the Marines, but I was never professionally taught. I never did it, you know, on a regular basis. You know, cardio, you know, Marines, you run all the time, but the resistance training thing I wasn't in tune for. And, you know, I'll tell you, you know, I struggled a lot with form and technique. And, you know, Ben can tell you, I'd send him videos every day and he'd be like, all right, listen, this is so fucked up, but we're just going to adjust this one thing right now, you know, in nicer ways, right? You know, but he's like, well, I'm glad you're actually doing the weight. That's good. You know, you get an A for effort, but shit, we got to work on your form because, you know, like, you know, and just the other day, we've been training for a year and a half. And just the other day, you said, I think that's the first perfect incline bench press I've ever seen you do. Right. You know, it's taken me that long to get to that perfect, you know, where I finally got the Ben blessing on the, you know, the form, but
on the
tempo. Yeah. And so, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, it's a continual progression where you build on small things, these small habits that we talked about last week that continue to make you who you are today. And those small habits then turn into bigger habits. And then you kind of feed those habits with other things to supplement them with. Right. And, you know, I right now I'm comfortable with, you know, 6 days a week lifting. As Ben mentioned, 14,000 steps, 3 days of cardio, but I don't know if I'm always going to be able to do that. Or I don't know if I'm going to do 4 days of cardio. I probably won't do 4 days of cardio because my resistance training is the most important. But you know, maybe I do 7 days a week. Ben won't let me do that, but, but you know, it's one of those things where, you know, I you know, it's a continuous evolution for me in what I'm doing and trying to be part of this journey where I'm learning myself, I'm learning my limits, I'm learning my boundaries, I'm learning what I can do, what I can't do. You know, a good example is I don't do barbell bench presses because it jacks my shoulders up. So I do neutral grip, you know, bench presses with a cambered bar, which is kind of like a curved bar that can go down further. So my arms lay neutral, which takes most of the pressure off of my shoulders. But it's also an ego hit because I can't lift as much, right? So, you know, my bench is probably around, you know, 385 right now if I had to make a guess, but I have no clue because I don't do those anymore. And so now my normal bench is like 220, you know, like with the neutral grip. And I just feel like such a bitch, you know, doing it. And not that 220 is bad. It's just, it's not my 385 or whatever I could be doing with just raw weights there and just being like, rah, you know. But we make adjustments for our bodies to help ourselves out, and we get better with those. But again, it's those small steps that make a big difference. If you're 100 pounds overweight or 150 pounds overweight or 80 pounds overweight, just getting out and getting that heart going, getting some steps in, you know, feeling good about yourself, starting to get a little nutrition knocked down a little bit, you start dropping a couple pounds. You know, then from there you start incorporating maybe a little bit of resistance training. That's going to make much of a bigger difference for you longer term than anything else is possibly. If you're going out there and you're trying to blast yourself with cardio by running, you know, or doing a Versa climber or just pounding the treadmill, you're going to hate life. You're going to hate life. You're going to hate what you do. You're going to hate going there. It's going to be a chore. You know, walking I can do all day long. Like I can walk whenever, but walking's fantastic for you. You know, I can go and hit the gym for an hour, 1 hour a day, or 40 minutes a day, or 30 minutes a day. Go for 30 minutes, go do a muscle group, you know, and see what happens from a different perspective. So, you know, there are things that we can do to get you kind of acclimated into that journey that starts to support those habits.
Yeah, I think what the interesting thing about the combination of you and I here is your journey has obviously come from a weight loss perspective and the amount of weight that you lost over time. But I tweeted about this earlier on, you know, from my perspective, like I'm coming from I was a skinny guy and I've been trying to put on weight for what seems like forever. And up until this point, I think this is probably the heaviest that I've ever been potentially. And it's been about 70 pounds since I started training, which is a lot of fucking weight to put on. It's a lot of fucking weight to lose, but it's also a lot of fucking weight to put on. One of the searches here, number 135, is why diets don't work.
Yeah.
Now, my thought on this is that they are too restrictive. There isn't enough education with them, and they're unrealistic to do over a long period of time. I think the education one is the biggest sort of thing to pinpoint, because, you know, even if we talk about keto, if you say to someone to do keto, what they will then assume that they have to do is eat only protein and fats, which in essence is the truth, but there's obviously a lot more to it. And if you actually got down to it, to actually get into a state of ketosis and whatever else, it's actually very difficult. And to do keto right and not do it the way that you're just eating fucking hamburgers and cheese for breakfast, it is challenging to actually do. Now, obviously the science, I understand it. There are benefits to certain amount of people, like you said, potentially diabetics. One study, I think, is on people who suffer from epilepsy. They benefit from a ketogenic diet. But my point behind it is that nobody actually understands why they're doing these things. And I always say that to any of you guys that come on board or I have calls with, like, I always want you to understand why we're doing those things, because whether we work together for 6 months, a year, or 2 years, or whatever, I want you to be able to carry those things on forever, so that if your goal changes, that you want to begin to put on weight, or you want to lose some more weight, or you want to work on your cardiovascular fitness, you know the tweaks and changes to make to your nutrition to manage that, because you spent the time understanding what you need, understanding food, understanding what works well for your body, and knowing that every week, if I make a change to your nutrition or whatever else, the why behind it. And I think that the why is the biggest thing that's missing from any diet. Like, you should just Google diet and go, okay, paleo, right? These are the only things that I can eat. Don't know why, but it says it here, so I'm going to go and do it. And I think the education side of it is, number one, the greatest gift that I can give to any client, but number two, the thing that's missing from all diets. Nobody really knows why they're doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah. And, you know, I think the you mentioned this several times, during our check-ins and things like that, or even, while we're doing our group meetups and stuff. But, and I think a lot of the dietitian, nutritionist, type of models are really shifting less on the restrictive type of senses, going more towards, eat what you can, but within a specific type of confine, right? So you're still restricted, but you're still eating what you want. And I think that's a big difference, is that, there is no cheat days or cheat foods or things like that. You're eating what you want, as long as it's within, your breakdown of what you should be able to eat on a regular basis. Now, again, remember how we've evolved. There's a scientific study that was done in the late 90s. They redid it again most recently. And what they showed was that, mice, when they were out in the wild, had zero issues with obesity and had longevity of life. As soon as you cage them and you feed them the same type of food, same amount of food, they're not as active. They're not foraging for the food. Food is always granted to them. They can have food anytime they want to, but they're still eating the same amounts. They became obese, and longevity of life shrunk. Now, if you start putting those same mice that aren't foraging for food, going out and trying to find their food as well, and you put them in a caloric deficit, you shave a little bit of their food off of them. You put a restriction of food into there. They maintained, their weight healthy wise and longevity wise as well. So there's no question that, where we evolved from was times where we would be extremely hungry. Being hungry isn't a bad thing. Being hungry is how we've evolved, and being hungry has a lot of health benefits. Being hungry, when we're never hungry, that's actually an issue. If you think about it, if we're in a cave and we have to forage for our family and there's no food and we're starving, if our body shuts down, what happens? That whole family dies, right? Instead, our body goes in overdrive. It forages the nutrients that it possibly can throughout the rest of our body, and it optimizes every aspect, from our heart rate to our brain activity to our muscles, our responsiveness and alertness all increases. All of these things happen when we're hungry. And, it's because we have to be able to go and forage and get our food in order for us to survive. And if we're just sluggish, we can't move, we can't do anything, we're shut down, we're going to die. And so you look at these, what we have today, we have access to as much food as we possibly can. We can get food anywhere we want to, any time of the day, high calorie foods. We don't have to forage or fight for anything. And that's why you see this obesity issue. I guarantee you didn't see cavemen just massively overweight, because they would have issues getting food. So, it's one of those things where, we're trying to emulate what happened back in those days. And the best way we can do it with all this awesome food out there is, say, restrict your calories. so that you aren't eating as much as you possibly can to pack on as much of that food out there, and living within a certain type of lifestyle that you can do long term. These diets, they're not sustainable long term with the amount of access of food that we have out there. If we lived in the middle of a fucking forest and all that was there was meat and cheeses, I don't know how you get cheeses in the middle of the forest, but that was it. Meats and fats from eating a dead animal and some fruits and nuts, we'd be fine with that because that's all we have available. But when you go to the store, there's pumpkin pie and there's, fucking wheat thins and all these other things out there, and you're like, man, those are so good, right? And so we have all these available options for us. And so, taking those and saying, okay, well, I'm going to have some wheat thins, but I'm going to eat with in moderation. I'm going to only have, 15 wheat thins versus the entire box that I'm still going to be hungry with. I'm still going to satisfy myself, but I'm not doing it so that I'm engorging myself to increase all these calories. So again, within moderation, less restrictive, more on what you want to eat, but within the confines of how many calories you have per day to be able to ditch for that or be able to use for your body.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point to touch on. And I was listening to the Diary of a CEO podcast on Monday, and it's he was interviewing a guy called Johan Yari, I think. So basically this guy, Johan Yari, has written a book called Stealing Focus or something like that. Basically, it's about focus and attention. Obviously, me not remembering the name is exactly why he has written the book. But it's basically about how we have evolved and our attention and our focus has shortened, and how that he feels like that is a massive problem that we need to overcome. But one of the points that he touched on was how this becomes in relation to food as well. And a point that he made was, if you look back to, I don't know if and this is maybe me being a fucking idiot, but I don't know if you had photos in the 70s, but if you look back at photos of the 70s and the 80s of people on the beaches, there was nobody on the beaches that was massively overweight. And it's not just the fact that, people who were overweight stayed in the house, that it just, there wasn't that many people, if any, people who were overweight. And the big shift in that came from fast food, processed food, the readily availableness of food. And that's where the shift came in terms of people's body composition and becoming overweight, because they didn't have to go and do the same things. Food could come to them, it could go in the freezer, it was processed, it could last longer, blah, 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 and all these things. And that was the point that he then later on led it into why this then affects people's attention and focus and whatever else. But it was an interesting point to note for sure. I think, that sort of like you said, if I stood here right now, I could get some fast food delivered here. I wouldn't even need to go anywhere. So I haven't went anywhere. I haven't had any exercise. I haven't had any output. I'm getting super high calorie food that's probably delicious, quite addictive, salty, processed, not that good for me, straight to the door. And, you're the same. You can do it pretty much everywhere across the world. Yeah, that readily availability of food, I think, is the biggest issue that has really bummed us. How fast we can get our food, how easy it is to get our food, how delicious it is for our bodies, and how our bodies crave it. There's a lot of science on this. There was actually a Huberman Labs podcast. Woo, couldn't go on podcast without it. I can't believe I actually thought this. I was like, we're nearly at the end of an hour and we haven't fucking mentioned it, and here we are. Last minute. There's actually a lot of science behind this about how our bodies crave certain foods, and you can actually train your body to like certain things. Like, for example, if you hate broccoli. The reason for that is, was it not about kale? Did he not say it's about kale? It was like kale or broccoli. It's something like that. I'm thinking of fucking kale. I hate kale too. Be realistic. Kale's awful. But anyway. One that I don't mind is quinoa. I actually like quinoa, but I don't like kale. And I don't like but that's because you were a vegetarian. I don't like avocado. You say with food, avocado sucks so horribly. That's like basically boogers. But what about if you're eating tacos? You know how no, God no. Guac is boogers. It is like literally the same context, color, everything is boogers. There's no way I'm eating that, man. That's weird. I won't touch guac. Avocado, guac, nothing. All you hipsters with your avocado toast can eat it. Whatever. It's more for you is fine. At least you'd save the extra $1 that they'll charge whenever you're at Chipotle or whatever. They do that here in Bush. Yeah, it's going to be extra. I'm like, yeah, okay, hit me with it. It's fine. Like, it's £1.72. Yeah, I won't do it. But yes, anyway, we'll go. You could talk about Andrew Huberman and his love for kale or whatever the science behind it. Well, there's our bodies like glucose spikes, like that. So when we eat sugars, things like that, our glucose spikes up and it transports sugar to our whole body, which eventually, if we don't use it up, goes to obviously fat stores. And so, he was talking about how you could mix, like broccoli, for example, with something sweet that spikes your glucose.
that will eventually actually change your taste buds to prefer that specific food, because you're kind of tricking your brain basically into thinking that broccoli has sugar in it, and then eventually you start to like it, or kale, or whatever the hell it is. I'm not doing with avocado. It's a texture thing for me. So interesting enough, our bodies actually crave and desire those high fatty, high sugar, high cholesterol, types of foods, because it could be used for energy stores later on, down the road. So, obviously our bodies have a unlimited set of store for fat. That's why you see 1,000-pound person. Obviously that taxes your heart, taxes your body, taxes all of your organs. It's not good for you. But our body will literally continue to try to progress and store as much body fat as we possibly can, so that in the event that we starve, we have other reserves to be able to keep us alive. It's a very intelligent system. It's just flawed from the sense of how we're actually using it. And it's creating this issue in a society that has unlimited amounts of food and high calorie foods that trick our bodies into wanting it more and more and more. And then we get into the cyclical effect of being obese. So, the way that you handle that is, you can still eat that stuff, just again, within moderation. If you're going to have a burger, great. You blew 1,000 calories in one sitting. Your dinner is going to be really small, and you're going to be focusing more on, protein shakes to get the protein in that you need to go and do it. But again, balancing yourself out throughout the day and eating more whole foods is by far the best route you can go from any type of diet to really help you on with these different types of struggles that you have.
Yeah, I think, I don't know about you, but if I have something that is, super processed, super high in calories, super high in whatever addictive substance, MSG, whatever the hell is in it, I am like a fucking crackhead off that. Like, that's all that I want to eat again and again and again. So obviously, I'm number one, it fucks my digestion up beyond belief. But the thing that I would do, you're talking about a burger there. You can have a burger and have it in a good, unprocessed, relatively healthy way. It'd still be delicious and not totally fuck things up for you. Or you can have it that it's a total fucking shit fest and you're having it super processed that comes from a fast food joint. So even having the understanding of the difference of the two of those is probably a key thing to sort of look at.
Yeah. Well, I think we did a good job. This is our podcast. This is a good one. I think it was good to kind of bridge all the different areas, top trends. As you can see, fuck diets. And it's
at least we know in the SEO on the website we can put Planet Fitness in, and we'll probably get quite a high.
That's right. Since it makes up like 50% of the search terms there, but they obviously must be doing something right if they got that many search terms. But appreciate listening, and hopefully took some good stuff away from this. You're again, moderation, tracking your calories, nutrition, incorporating certain things will make you successful going into 2022 and throughout the rest of your time. That's a given.
Yeah, and everybody who keeps sharing, like I've noticed, I don't know if you checked it out, but there's like 20-30% increase in terms of the amount of people that are tagging #WeHaveHealth and everybody's journey. Like, it's so good to see. So everybody keep doing what they're doing. Any questions, any issues anybody needs, give us a shout.
Hit up our Discord.
Obviously Discord. Yeah. All the usual shit. All the links are in the bio or the notes or whatever, show notes or whatever they're called. But yeah, catch you next week.
Same time, same day.
Cool. Bye.
Yeah.